Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 16th. We're here at Hump Day, and we've got the weather desk for you with today's top weather headlines. A lot of stuff going on across the country. Again, we've been caught up in a very active weather pattern, and today it just keeps on rolling. And not only do we have national headlines and some big stories to talk about, we'll be talking about some activity in the tropics, and we're going to look internationally. There's some volcanic activity we'll address. Let's give you more specifics here with our headlines today, some of the different topics. Extreme weather across the country. We've got a package showing everything from flooding up in the Northeast, and the situation in New York City, so impressive when you see the heavy amounts of rain they were dealing with in the Big Apple, and some of the stairs leading to some of the subway stations looking more like waterfalls than staircases. We also will talk about the wildfires out west and some of the other extreme weather across the country. Texas flood recovery update. I hate, and I was thinking about this, the flooding occurred on the 4th of July. We talked about that. And the fact that it is still an ongoing story that has impacted so many people, and these recovery efforts are still continuing, that we're still talking about it here 12 days later. It's just awful there. And again, we do have some important recovery information to share with you, so we'll have that coming up. But your heart just breaks. And again, our parent company, Tegna, has put together a great effort to help raise money for flood victims. And again, I encourage you, if you have that opportunity, if you have the means to do it, try to get behind those folks recovering from the Texas flooding. We'll take a look at some of the other things. How about a landspout doing some damage in Colorado? Have you seen that? You get low-level circulation, and this landspout forms from the ground up. And it's weak, but it does damage. You're going to see some of the damage, and pretty wild there from Colorado. All right, we've got an update on Invest 93L and the rest of the tropics. 93L, that area that we've been watching. It moved across Florida and is now kind of straddling the Gulf Coast around the Florida Panhandle. We'll talk more about that and give you an update on what else is happening across the basin. And then we're going to take you back to the Grand Canyon wildfires. We've got more video from that area and an update on some of the additional things that have been burned out there around the Grand Canyon. And then that volcanic activity, we're taking you back to Iceland. And near Reykjavik, we'll have some beautiful video showing a crater that is starting to bubble up with activity, something that if you enjoy the volcano updates, and we share those with you from around the world, we've got some great video that I think you'll enjoy. We're starting off with some good news across Hampton Roads. Look at this little lightning strike with this cell well offshore from the eastern shore. We've had a few thunderstorms down to the south around the Outer Banks, some light to moderate activity with a few isolated cells farther east. But the big news today for Hampton Roads, we are not under a weather impact alert. We've had that for the past couple of days with all of the potential for flooding. That flooding potential has shifted to the north. Again, a few sprinkles down around the Outer Banks this morning. The electrical activity all offshore and away from the area. As we expand the view and look off to the north, it's going to be this area in here that has the greater threat for the flooding. And you see that across parts of the Northeast. So again, it has been a rough go for us here in Hampton Roads, at Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina, but now that flooding potential shifting a little farther to the north. Of course, I will spend a lot more time updating you on our local forecast, and we could still see a few storms, but our rain threat is down. Now, this morning, the East Coast is bracing for even more flooding. Areas off to the north, many areas that were hit hard by the heavy rains earlier this week are expected to get some more unsettled weather. ABC's Andrew Dimbert has the details.
This morning, parts of the East Coast are bracing for more severe weather after days of heavy rain and flooding. A state of emergency declared in Petersburg, Virginia. A creek in the city topping 15 feet, flooding neighborhoods. Some backyards accumulating up to 18 inches of water. In the Northeast, that same system bringing up to 7 inches of rain to some areas. In Plainfield, New Jersey, 2 women were killed when their car was swept into a brook. Nearby, this home caught fire and exploded due to an apparent gas leak. Luckily, the family had already evacuated because of flash flood warnings. The heavy rain inundated New York City transit, water flowing into subway stations and cars. Now, as severe weather events like this become more frequent, insurance companies are raising rates. Next month, homeowners in Illinois with State Farm Insurance will see an increase of 27%. In the west, multiple fires are burning out of control. In Oregon, the Cram Fire scorching more than 40,000 acres with 0% containment.
That fire grew very quickly. We had a bunch of tankers on it, and it still was just really resistant to any suppression efforts.
South of Denver, the Turner Gulch Fire exploding in size since Monday, destroying more than 12,000 acres. An evacuation order for the area remains in effect. In the Grand Canyon, fire crews continuing to battle the Dragon Bravo fire as extreme temperatures fuel the flames. Farther north, hundreds of fires are currently burning in Canada, and that smoke is now spreading into the U.S. Air quality alerts issued this week for parts of the Midwest. The smoky skies seen over Chicago are similar to what many Americans experienced back in 2023, when smoke from Canadian wildfires made its way into the U.S., creating some of the worst air quality in the world. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
So much extreme weather, and we're going to talk some more about the air quality. I'll update you on exactly what cities are reporting this morning coming up just a little later on. I want to talk to you about those excessive rainfall outlooks. Again, potential flooding for the Northeast. I mentioned that some more heavy rains potentially from the lower peninsula of Michigan across Lake Michigan through Wisconsin, southeastern Minnesota and northeastern Iowa. Then from western Illinois across northern Missouri and much of Kansas. There's also that level 2 threat where flash flooding or excessive rainfall is likely anywhere in those areas. We'll continue to watch that. I do want to turn our attention down to the south. We're going to take you back to Texas. I told you we'd have an update there. And you can see as we take a look back towards Kerrville, that has been the area that was so hard hit, but it's been along the Guadalupe River. We're going to go ahead and get you an update where these recovery efforts are still underway in Kerr County. Crews from all over the country, including here in Hampton Roads, are on the ground helping after the flash flooding devastated the region back on the 4th of July. The death toll now stands at 134, while more than 100 people are still missing. Amanda Henderson with our sister station in Houston caught up with the civil search. It's a rescue team from Mexico, and they're helping search along the Guadalupe River.
At the Guadalupe River in Ingram, Texas, mountains of branches continue to line the banks. The site met with the sound of helicopters.
The condition of the river is easier right now than before, but it's still hard to go to into the river.
Down in the Guadalupe River, you'll find Manolo Acevedo and his crew, Protección Civil from Nuevo León, Mexico. Armed with ATVs, divers, boats, maps, and search dogs, they're searching the Guadalupe for those swept away in the deadly July 4th floods, only taking breaks when officials tell them to.
What troubles have you guys had with the water today?
Well, we were working last day, but yesterday and today, we have to stop for the raining. The raining is causing the rivers comes up.
The latest warning happening just hours ago, which is when we spoke with them after looking at their map for where they will start next when they're able.
It's not only a disaster economically, houses. We are talking about we lost people, we lost children.
So many folks helping with those recovery efforts, not only from across the country, but truly internationally as well. All right, we're going to turn our attention from Texas now to another part out west, and let's zoom in to Colorado. This is where a landspout damaged several businesses in Franktown earlier this week. That's about 30 minutes outside of Denver. Now, a landspout is a tornado that forms from the ground up. You think about supercells that, you get a spin off the base of one of these supercells, you get some rotation, and those monster tornadoes come down. Landspouts start lower with some circulation, and they can form from the ground up. They're typically weaker and shorter lived than regular tornadoes. Rachel Krause with our sister station in Denver has a look at what this landspout did.
Macy, come here, little baby. Come here, little man.
Scooter's been having a tough day.
It's a Scooter.
Ricky Martinez says the 3-year-old dachshund was one of many pets playing at Wags and Walks Monday afternoon when a storm swept in.
We literally just got all the dogs inside, kind of just see all the wind start to blow, and then that roof just shoots right over and slams where everyone was just at, just a couple minutes ago. It happened so abruptly where there wasn't any hail or any big, nothing crazy, all of a sudden just tornado.
A landspout sprouted up suddenly, damaging 3 buildings and 7 businesses in its path.
Debris everywhere, nails and roofing, and just everything's just tattered and just torn up. Man, okay.
Walking around to see his family's business.
Pretty rough. Not what I like to see come in.
The storefront they'd worked so long for.
It's kind of heartbreaking, honestly.
Now strained under storm debris.
We can clean everything up. Everything's replaceable. We can fix stuff. So that's kind of what we're focused on.
It's all right, huh? It's okay.
For Ricky, there's relief, knowing despite all the storm took.
Yeah, he's very brave. He's a strong guy.
Their most precious cargo came through it all, safe and sound.
Here, come on, sweetie. Come on. Let's go, baby boy.
They talked about being surprised by that landspout, and it's different. Again, when you have a supercell, we can track that with our radar very easily. We can see that. We can look for things like a hook echo or inbound, outbound winds. We can take a look at the way the winds are shifting within the thunderstorm. It's easy to identify some of the precursors to a tornado. With that landspout, because it forms low and comes up, a lot of times you don't get any indication or any warning out ahead of it. They're very rare here in the East Coast. We get water spouts, but we don't get too many land spouts. And sometimes a water spout can move in and kind of transition as a weak land spout. But for the folks here not too far from Denver, a different situation. So you just saw that really dramatic video. Fortunately, everybody there's okay. All right, we're going to take a look at the tropical update, and we are now about a month and a half into the start of the hurricane season. So, we start June 1, we've come through June, and now halfway through July, you see how the activity is going to be peaking as we get into that September 10th time period. That's typically the traditional peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. So there's a lot of hurricane season to go. And believe it or not, Florida just got hit with some pretty heavy rain from a tropical wave that moved through. Now, we're going to continue to monitor all of these developments, but we're also going to take a closer look at how these tropical systems form. Meteorologist Hunter Forst explains.
Hurricanes are the most violent storms on Earth. They form as waves coming off the coast of Africa. Like all tropical cyclones, a hurricane needs the warm waters of the tropics, which feeds the storm the energy in order to form. The warm water then helps fuel the system, providing energy that causes the warm air in the center to rise faster. It condenses high in the atmosphere, creating thunderstorms. If conditions are favorable, a tropical depression develops into a tropical storm, and then finally, a hurricane. As rising air in the storm's center condenses, it produces heat, forcing it to rise even faster, pushing air out the top, and more air has to rush in at the surface to take its place. The pattern allows the storm to essentially feed itself and grow in strength. Because of the Earth's rotation, all hurricanes in the northern hemisphere rotate counterclockwise. The most destructive part of the storm is normally in the eye wall area to the northeast of the eye. This is the area that causes the most destruction when a hurricane makes landfall, leading to higher winds and storm surge.
All right, so Hunter was talking about one type of hurricane there, one that we refer to maybe as a Cape Verde hurricane, one that starts coming off the coast of Africa, really starts to get more organized out around the eastern part of the Atlantic and moves across the ocean. Sometimes we just get waves of low pressure, or those low-level circulations can begin along a decaying front. We've seen that as well. Excuse me. What I want to talk to you about here is a little wave of low pressure that started off in the southeast U.S., and that the Hurricane Center has been watching for days. I want to show you the radar loop here. You can see the heavy rain that was associated with this spin. This is not a tropical system at this point, but those are some pretty heavy tropical rains that worked across Florida there. And you can see that center of circulation kind of tracking along, and now it's kind of interacting with the northern Gulf and kind of right along the Gulf Coast. So we continue to watch it. A lot of the deeper convection down to the south. We haven't seen as much rain over land here. And it's one of those things that may or may not develop too much from here. I wanted to talk about what the Hurricane Center still believes has a 40% chance for development. Again, the center kind of straddling land. And when the center is over land, it needs water. It needs warm, moist air. as its fuel source. So when it's over land, it's not getting that from the sea surface temperatures, as if, if the center was down here a little farther to the south, it would be most likely cranking up. But there's still some potential as this kind of moves right along the extreme northern Gulf. If it goes just even a little farther south, it could develop more. So the Hurricane Center's leaving it with a 40% chance for development. It is an area of investigation. It is forecast to continue moving off to the west. Right now, the movement's at 12 miles per hour, maximum winds 30 miles per hour, so it's not a very powerful system, but it may strengthen a bit. Most likely, it would need to be a little farther south and out over water longer to become a depression, but it could happen. If it tends to move a little bit more over land, takes a more northerly turn a little earlier, then it'll just be a rainmaker for parts of the deep south as we go over the coming days. We're watching it. Now, as far as the rainfall outlooks go, again, this is some of the model projections. And if you watched yesterday, we had 1 to 2 inch rainfalls all over the place, 2 to 4 for some areas. Now it's down a little bit because that center of circulation's over the Florida panhandle, and it's drawing some moisture in, but most of the deeper convection is down to the south over the Gulf. So we'll continue to watch all of that and let you know. For now, that's what's happening with that area of investigation. As you look across the rest of the Gulf and the Caribbean, things are quiet. Back across the Atlantic, there was a cluster we were watching and never really developed, kind of fizzled out there. No problems. And the Eastern Pacific also looking really good right now. So for now, aside from Invest 93L, there's really not too much else that we are worried about. As we take a look out to the west, I was looking at some fire danger. This just updated. We had widespread fire danger over parts of Nevada and Utah yesterday. It's still very dry out for parts of the west. You can see up into Oregon. In fact, let's take this map full so I can just move the map around a little bit for you here. I do want to take a little closer look at this, and as we do, again, you're going to see areas off to the north up towards Pennsylvania. You can see, I said Pennsylvania, where did that come from? Oregon up into Washington State. We've got some chances there. I'm trying to open this up, and we're doing this on the fly for you. I love that we can do this for you here with the weather desk. We can do all this live while we're streaming, and you can see parts of Washington State there just out to the west, or to the east, rather, of Seattle and the west of Yakima. We've got those red flag warnings. There are kind of burn restrictions across portions of Oregon. And as we take a look farther to the south, the conditions have improved. But the red flag warnings still for portions of Washington State. So we'll continue to watch all of that. Now, as far as the wildfires go themselves, we'll take a closer look and get into where we are looking at active wildfires. And we've got them out west. As we zoom into this area, we still have those fires we were showing you across northern parts of Arizona, around the north rim of the Grand Canyon, areas off to the north of that. The White Sage fires, we've been watching all of that. And again, that continues to be a big concern. As we focus on these, the 2 wildfires that have been burning along the northern rim of the Grand Canyon for more than a week now, the White Sage fire and the Dragon Bravo fire were started by lightning on July 4th. And as of this morning, they are both still 0% contained. So far, the White Sage fire has scorched more than 50,000 acres, while the Dragon Bravo fire has burned more than 8,000. The fast-moving flames have destroyed more than 70 structures, including the visitor center, a gas station, a wastewater treatment plant, and the historic Grand Canyon Lodge. That lodge served as the only lodging along the North Rim, and for many locals, it's hard to believe it's gone.
It's very emotional. I've been to the North Rim many times. My husband used to work for a company that drives shuttle to there, and we've spent many nights over there, had a lot of anniversaries, and we go hunt our elderberries on the Kaibab over there, on the North Kaibab, and it's a very special place. It would be like losing one of the historic buildings here at the South Rim. It's very, very special and is a tragic loss.
You see that. Well, fortunately, no one has been hurt in these wildfires, so there's one bit of good news. All right, we mentioned the Canadian wildfires off to the north and all of the smoke associated with those. There have been issues with air quality across the northern tier of the U.S., even back through Seattle. And then looking down to the northeast, we're starting to get more reports with poor air quality. You can see across Montana, it's moderate across the Dakotas and Minnesota. You get into Michigan here, and and we're seeing now code orange or unsensitive or unhealthy for sensitive groups into this area. You get into unhealthy air quality areas south of Green Bay and again around the Detroit area. So we do have some more issues here with the air quality and some of the stemming from the Canadian wildfires and some of that smoke finding its way down to the south. Here in Hampton Roads, again, with all the rain, our atmosphere has actually been pretty well cleansed. And while it's super humid, the air quality itself is good. Again, we'll continue to watch all of that. All right, I want to take you to Iceland now. And we told you we'd give you a look at the volcano. This is a volcano that erupted near Reykjavik overnight. Check it out. You can see this is the Sundhnúkar crater. I think I said that right. Anyway, this eruption hasn't threatened any towns. It did force tourists to evacuate from the Blue Lagoon. That's a popular geothermal spa. So they did take the tourists and people away from that spa and got them to safety out of an abundance of caution. This is the 9th time the volcano has erupted in the last 2 years, and we've covered previous eruptions here on the weather desk. So this is an area that we watch, and again, you see these pictures, these images are just beautiful to see. Fortunately, again, nobody really in harm's way once they got those tourists away from that spa, and we will continue to watch these natural phenomena around the world. We show you earthquakes and volcanoes, different things coming in, tsunamis, different things. Sometimes it's related to seismic activity. Other times we have weather information. That's all part of what we cover here with the weather desk. We also talk about space weather occasionally. Right now, we're going to come back to Hampton Roads in Northeast North Carolina and just show you the outlooks. Again, we're not worried about excessive rainfall so much widespread today. There could be some locally heavier rains, but the flooding risk, as I mentioned, is farther to the north. Most of the area is actually in really good shape. Severe weather threat is minimal today as well. We're not worried about that. Not today, but tomorrow there is that level 1 risk, a marginal risk for severe weather here, so we'll watch for that. You can see again today level 2 threats for severe weather around Chicago up into Wisconsin, parts of Colorado again, and the wind, the primary threats. We don't have any areas hashtag for 75-mile-per-hour winds or stronger, so that's encouraging. But there is this elevated risk of tornadoes, so we're going to be watching parts of Wisconsin and northern Illinois, Chicago kind of on the cusp of some of that elevated threat for tornadoes, so we'll be watching that. Again today, there's a risk of larger hail over eastern Colorado, Denver area up through Cheyenne. So we'll continue to monitor those locations for potential stronger hail-producing storms. I mentioned tomorrow there is that level 1 or marginal threat for severe weather. Really, wind is the big concern, and that's kind of borderline. I do think there will be a chance for isolated storms, mainly north and west of our area, but a few of those could be stronger. You see there isn't much hail potential anywhere across the country tomorrow, and we're not worried about tornadoes here in Hampton Roads either. Now, as we look across the Jordan Bridge and you check out that sky view from the Thompson Creek Window Company, we've got some clouds out there right now. It's 80, and look at the dew point, 76. That's a lot of humidity that we have in the atmosphere. If you're going to the beaches, low risk of a stray shower or storm, but I won't totally rule it out. Chances today across the region around 30%. So here's what we have for you out on the water today. You've got winds that are going to come in and blow, not too bad, but a little breezy, maybe 10 to 15 knots later today. They're starting off lighter this morning, and we'll see some gusts maybe to 20 knots out on the ocean waters, seas running about 2 feet. As you can see with the satellite and the radar images, we're dry this morning. As we go through the afternoon, there could be a few isolated showers or a stray storm. Chances today around 30%. We'll see that. Then through the overnight, things settle down. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, excited about that, but the temperature's warmer tomorrow. We're going to be up in the mid-90s, and with the heat index values, we're going to see those feels-like temperatures with the humidity up over 100 tomorrow. Could feel like 105. And if we get 3 hours at 105 or more, that's heat advisory criteria. Don't think we'll get quite there, not for 3 hours, but we may touch 105 in a few areas, or maybe a degree or two warmer down to the south. As we get into Thursday afternoon and evening, you see a chance for a stray shower or storm off to the north. Most of us should enjoy pretty good conditions for your Thursday. And again, rainfall amounts not nearly as high as we've seen over the past few days. Highs today, upper 80s to low 90s across the region. Enjoy today. Know that there's still a chance for a stray shower or storm. Chances today around 30%. Maybe a little bit lower for parts of the peninsula and the middle peninsula, and maybe a little bit greater down across northeast North Carolina late morning and into the afternoon. Lows tonight near 79. It's going to be variably cloudy tomorrow, back up around 96. Hazy, hot and humid, otherwise mostly sunny with a very low risk of a stray storm tomorrow. After that, a 30% chance into the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. So a little bit drier, but hot tomorrow, hot again on Friday. Isolated storms potentially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. By Tuesday and looking beyond that through the rest of next week, our rain chances should be a little lower. So hopefully we'll enjoy some drier weather and maybe a little break from the heat by the middle to end of next week as well. We'll see. You know, one way you can always stay up on our forecast is by downloading the 13 News Now mobile app. Scan that QR code right there on your screen. You'll have access to news, weather, and traffic updates on the go. It's a great resource. You always have access to our radars, and we will keep you updated if there are any severe weather notifications or alerts. You'll get them pushed out to that app as well. Thanks so much for joining us today here on the Weather Desk for today's top weather headlines. We continue to watch those areas with excessive rainfall. We'll keep an eye to all the stories going on across the country and around the world each and every weekday morning right here on the Weather Desk. I'll see you next time.